The Lute Player Caravaggio. The Lute Player is a composition by the Italian Baroque. It used to exist in two versions, one in the Wildenstein Collection and another in the Hermitage Museum, St. Petersburg. However, a third from Badminton House, Gloucestershire, came to light in 2007. Background: Caravaggio's early biographer Giovanni Baglioni gives the following description of a piece done by the artist for his patron Cardinal Francesco del Monte. I dipinse per il Cardinale del Monte. Ancien giovane ci sonava il lotto, ci vivo e viro il tutto peria con una carafa di fiori piena di qua, ci dentro il riflesso due finestre excellentement. Si scorgeva con altri ripercottamenti di quella camera dentro all'acqua, e sopra quei fiori irrabi una viva rugiada. E questo dis ci fu il più bel pezzo ci facis mai. He also painted for Cardinal del Monte a young man, playing the lute, who seemed altogether alive and real, with a carafe of flowers full of water, in which you could see perfectly the reflection of a window and other reflections of that room inside the water, and on those flowers there was a lively dew depicted with every exquisite care, and this, he said, was the best piece that. The painting exists in three versions. All show a boy with soft facial features and thick brown hair, accompanying himself on the lute as he sings a madrigal about love. As in the Uffizi Bacchus, the artist places a tabletop in front of the figure. In the Hermitage and Badminton House versions, it is bare marble, with a violin on one side. In the Wildenstein version, the table is covered with a carpet and extended forwards to hold a tenor recorder, while the still life is replaced by a spinette, a small keyboard instrument, and a caged songbird. The musical instruments are valuable and probably came from Del Monte's personal collection. The Hermitage and Badminton House versions show madrigals by Jacques Arcadelt 1515–1568, and the visible text reads in part, Vous savez que je vous aime et vous adore. Je fus votre. You know I love you and adore you. I was yours. The Wildenstein version shows songs by a native Florentine, Francesco de Lael, on a text by Petrarch, Laisse la voile, let go the veil, and pourquoi ne vous donnes vous passe? Why do you not give yourself? By Giacchetto Burkham Jacquet de Burkham. The flowers and damaged fruit, and the cracked body of the lute, suggest the theme of transience. Love, like all things, is fleeting and mortal. The choice of Franco-Flemish composers over native Italians, only Lael was a native Italian, no doubt reflects the cultural and political affiliations of the pro-French Del Monte Giustiniani circle. The still life elements are of an extremely high standard in all versions, the finely rendered fruit and flowers in two versions equaled by the textures of spinetta and flute in the other, and the artist has reproduced the initial notes of the madrigals so exactly that one can recognize the Roman printer, Valerio Dorica. The rather androgynous model could be Pedro Montoya, a castrato known to have been a member of the Del Monte household and a singer at the Sistine Chapel. At about this time castrati were highly prized, and the cardinal was a patron of music as well as of painting. More recently, Caravaggio biographer Peter Robb has identified him as Caravaggio's companion Mario Minetti, the model for several other paintings from this period, including the Carcharps and one of the two versions of the Fortune Teller. All three versions demonstrate the innovative approach to light that Caravaggio adopted at this time. Caravaggio's method, as described by Caravaggio's contemporary Giulio Mancini, was to use a strong light from above, with a single window, and the walls painted black, so that having the lights bright and the shadows dark, the room itself seems to be the same as that in the Canterley Chapel calling of St. Matthew, and the beam of light across the rear wall has an upper limit that would appear to be the shutter of the window above the table in the calling. The carafe is a cut and paste motif from another image, where the main light came from a window at more or less the same level as the carafe itself. Such a complex illustration of refracted light is unprecedented in the Cinquecento, and may have been the result of collaboration with scientists in Del Monte's circle, including Giovanni Battista della Porta, who was the guiding spirit behind the foundation in 1603 of the Accademia dei Lincei. His multi-volume De Refraction Opticis 1593 was particularly concerned with optical matters, the second volume being devoted entirely to the incidence of light on water-filled and glass spheres. The Circle of Della Porta was significant for Caravaggio later on in Naples, where the commission for the Seven Acts of Mercy seems to have emanated from Giovanni Battista Manso, Marchese di Villa, whose friend, the alchemist Colantonio Stigliola, was a member of the Accademia dei Lincei. The appearance of second originals is a feature of a new understanding of Caravaggio's work, and indeed Vincenzo Giustiniani, whose experience was closely related to the artist's career, describes in his Discorso sulla pittura the painter's development as beginning with copying others' work proceeding further. He can also copy his own work, so that the replica may be. The procedure for making a second version was, however, substantially different from the sometimes very arduous task of building a group from many separate observations of reality, of figures and objects. It is natural that the second original is sometimes more fluent than the first. The anatomical anomalies in the Wildenstein and Badminton House paintings, like the slightly out-of-line eyes, or the hesitations in the profile of the hand, are resolved in the Hermitage picture. By contrast, the Hermitage version is more cursory in the drapery, less insistent in the detail, and it does not have the magnificent reflections in the carafe, which were specific to the alchemical context of the original. This is also the reason for the jealousy with which the group of pictures was regarded by Caravaggio's patron Del Monte, and for the misunderstanding that the pursuit of natural philosophy incurred in the Rome of his day. The Wildenstein version was sold by Del Monte's heirs to Cardinal Antonio Barberini in 1628, when it was described as un Giovanni Sona di Clivo without an attribution, and included with St. Catherine in the Carcharps named specifically, as by Caravaggio and various other paintings. The painting is illuminated by a soft chiaroscuro inspired by the Brescia masters of the 16th century and characteristic of the early phase of Caravaggio's development. The catalogue to the 1990 exhibition held to mark the identification of the Wildenstein Lute Player, which was already known but thought to be a copy, by another hand commented on the markedly different lighting used for this. Nevertheless, critic Jason Kaufman felt that the rendition of the boy in the Wildenstein version was aesthetically inferior to the Hermitage. The Hermitage version is from the collection of the artist's other important patron of the period, Del Monte's friend and neighbor Marchese Vincenzo Giustiniani. It was purchased in 1808 at the Paris auction by Russian Emperor Alexander I through his personal art advisor Valery Rudinovsky. Purchasing was supported by Dominique Vivant Dinan. Badminton House version. Footnotes: